Hey, it's Tanya Taylor of Grow Your Wealth TV, and if you're not familiar with my channel, I talk about personal finance topics, and right now I am doing a video series on retirement. So if you have not checked out the first video, please check it out. I'll put the link below, and you can learn all about the differences between an IRA and a Roth IRA and which one might be most appropriate for you. Now in this video, I'm going to start off with the folks in the 30s, and I'm going to be providing 5 tips that you can start using now in your 30s to invest. So I mentioned in the first video about a study that was done. I didn't really get into detail, but Fidelity did a study, and it's alarming because it talks about 55% of Americans are pretty much in the danger zone of not being able to cover their estimated essential expenses like housing or healthcare or food when they get to retirement. What that means for us, now that we're aware of that, is that we need to get on board. We need to start figuring out what we need to do right now to prepare ourselves so that we're not putting the burden on our children or just being totally uncertain of what we're going to be doing when we get to retirement, and even whether or not we will be able to retire. So I'm going to provide the 5 tips on what you can start doing in your 30s. I would love it if you have not yet subscribed to my channel to go ahead and subscribe. I would also love to hear from you on retirement topics that you'd like to hear about. Also, if you want to know about new videos which are posted on Fridays and on Sundays, just hit the notification bell and you will get my updated videos as soon as I publish them. Lastly, please share with your friends. This is a very important topic. It's actually really near and dear to me because I would love for my friends to be able to retire early with me, because I do plan to retire early, and just travel the world and do like fun stuff. And if we are all in this boat where we are not able to do that, then we'll be stuck working. And I can't imagine getting to a certain age and really have to work, not because we love what we're doing, but because we have to, because we have not been prepared. Okay, so you are 30s, maybe early 30s, mid 30s, and you're living the cool life. You're probably having a really neat income and you're hanging out with your friends. And why would you think about retirement at that age? Well, if you don't want to call it retirement or planning for retirement, that's totally fine. But you want to call it planning for your future so that you're not working forever. How about that? So, the first thing that I would say to you is that if you don't already have a budget, to create one. And that way you can see where all your spending is. If you are making a reasonable salary, and even if you're not, and you find that when you get your paycheck, it's all out the door and you have no idea where it went, a great thing to do is to start by creating a budget. Again, you don't have to call it a budget. You could call it my future freedom or my spending plan or whatever the case might be. Anything that makes you feel good and make it not feel like a punishment. But you want to see where your money is going, because what you're going to get from that is that you might be spending on things that you should not be spending on. And you could take some of that money and use it to put towards your retirement. And when I talk about budget, there are actually different type of budgets that you can use. So there is a zero budget, and essentially what that is that someone will create their budget and they will allocate all of their expenses to a different bucket until the income that they receive is completely zeroed out. There's also the savings budget, where you're first going to pay yourself, and then anything that's left over, you're going to allocate it to those different buckets. You're going to do what feels most comfortable for you. If you feel like there are some things that you must have, that you want to also make sure that you build that in so that you're actually not punishing yourself. So you just want to do some research on the different types of budget. And the last thing on the budget is that you want to make sure that your budget is real. So if you have a lot of expenses, but you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to include that, include everything, including just those one-time annual expenses that you are going to be paying regardless, because then you could see the full picture of what you will be paying. And one of the things that you might want to do is just If you know that you have, let's say, a bonus at the end of the year and you use that for some of your expenses, I know that I do that with my bonus. I will say, okay, I'm going to earmark it for that. And so I may not include it in my budget. But anything else that, even if it's one time a year and I know that it's not earmarked by a certain other fund that I'm going to be getting in, I always make sure that I add it to my budget and I am putting away money on a monthly basis to make sure that I am accounting for it so that I don't get to that time when it's due and I have to use my credit card. So just be cognizant of that when you're creating your budget. So the last thing that I want to say about a budget is that you can always adjust it. So it's not static, like, okay, I'm going to have this budget for the next however many years. You could always revisit it, adjust it, and make sure that it works for you. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is investing in your 401k plan. I remember when I first got a job, like, I think at 23, that I had like a real job. And I had a mentor, and the first thing he said to me was, make sure you put money away in your retirement plan. It seemed kind of silly then that I was putting money away, but now looking back, I'm glad that I did because it benefited from the power of compounding. So I would say to you, like, especially if you're just getting a new job, your company generally, if they offer a 401k plan, a lot of them also offer a match. And if you're not putting in your 401k plan, you're literally just walking away from money. So you want to put in at least the minimum that is being matched. So if your company says we're going to match you 4%, put in at least 4%. If you are not doing it and you are earning an income, even if your employer is not matching it, consider investing in a 401k plan at your job. Or if not, I talked about the IRA and the Roth IRA video. So just go back to that video and figure out which one makes the best sense for you. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to talk about is paying off your debt. A lot of people accumulate debt, and the student loan debt, I understand that that was one of those things that you needed to move your career forward. Other type of debts, which are credit card debt, and it's not to call out or to say, oh, we're so bad or anything like that, but it's just recognizing that sometimes we spend money on our credit card so wildly because it's just so easy to swipe or to just take our phone and pay that we don't realize how much is going out. And before you know it, you have all of this debt accumulated. So as a 30-year-old, what you're going to notice is that the years just seem to start going by much faster. And the responsibilities, especially if you decide to have a family, just becomes much more. If you have student loan, work on paying that off, especially if you don't yet have a family. And if you do have a family, that's when you really want to sit down with a financial coach and figure out, okay, I have debt, I have a family, so I have more expenses coming in. And then if I have a family, I might have to be thinking about paying for college for them down the road. So the biggest thing that you want to do is at least get rid of that debt and not be adding on more debt to that. And then you can focus on the other things that you need to do. Things that you can do is to consolidate your debt. We're in a very low interest rate environment right now, but companies still also offer a lot of 0% credit card. Take advantage of that. Move your money over to a credit card that's 0% and keep paying on it until that period expires. And if you need to roll it over again, depending on your amount of debt, you do that. Now, if you have debt and you have bad credit, you obviously want to first start by working on your credit. That's not something very difficult. So you work to fix your credit and then you're able to get the better credit card and the better interest rate. And also, if you have a mortgage, you want to consider whether or not it makes sense to get a home equity line of credit, a home equity loan, or refinance your mortgage. Again, that's something that you'd want to sit and do all the calculations, and you'd have to be certain that you're being responsible and you're not just doing this to accumulate additional debt. So comment below, let me know if you're taking advantage of the low interest rate and whether or not you use credit card by taking advantage of the 0% rate. I can tell you that whenever I have credit card debt, it's usually 0% because I'm always trying to find that credit card with a 0%. And I just come up with a plan to structure it out so that I'm done paying it by the time that teaser rate is expired. So the next thing that I want to talk about is you as a 30-something-year-old, if you have not already started doing this outside of your 401k plan, is that you need to start thinking about your investing and what sort of investment options there are. Now, if you check out this video, I talk about investing in mutual fund, index fund, and exchange traded fund, and the differences between the three and what might work for different individual. There's also investing in the stock market as well, and you can also learn how to do that and figure out what diversity of investments you would like to have. But you definitely should be thinking about investing at this point in time, and usually in your 30s. It's all going to depend on people's risk tolerance, right? Someone in their 30s might be very risk averse and they may not want to invest in stock, whereas someone in their 30s may say, I'm going to be holding these stock for the long term, so I really want to put a lot of my portfolio in stock. So it's really going to vary depending on how comfortable you are with the investment strategies, but you definitely want to look at all the different investment vehicles, including real estate, and figuring out what combination works best for you. So comment below and tell me what type of investments you do have, or if you don't, which ones are you considering holding? And don't forget to check out this video here that talks about the different type of investment vehicles that you can use. All right, so now we're on to number 5. This is one that's overlooked by so many people, but it's like so important, and it is to get insurance protection, especially if you have a family. But even if you don't, you still want to get insurance protection, because there can come a time when you become uninsurable. So you want to lock in that rate while you're young. Now you might say, I don't have children, so I don't need it. You don't have children, but maybe you'll need it later, or maybe you have a favorite charity that you want to leave it to, or something else. So think long end game instead of just right now, and then you'll see why it's important to get those things. Same thing with long-term care and disability. Even though your job may provide disability insurance, it might not be enough, and long-term care, because it gets so expensive when you get older. I remember, I think my husband and I got ours before we turned 40, and then they really changed what was offered in long-term care. And so now when we look at what we have, we're so grateful that we got it much younger, because if we think about getting it now, one, it would be so expensive, and two, the benefits that we have locked up and tucked away is so different from what companies are offering right now. The other thing that I want to say about insurance is like so important, and I get like all worked up about this one, is don't believe people when they tell you to buy term only. Everybody's situation is different, and what studies have shown is that most people outlive term life insurance. So even though it is drastically cheaper, and what gets told a lot is that you should buy term and invest the rest, there's two things with that. One is most people don't invest the rest. But secondly, I bought my first insurance policy in my 20s. Unless I bought term only, in the next couple of years, I would not have any insurance. I have children that I would like to leave a legacy for, and I have charities that I would like to leave a legacy for. Now, when I get to that age where my insurance expire, if I wanted more insurance, even if I wanted term, it would still be so expensive. When you're younger, if you get a good policy or combination of policies, depending on what your long-term goal is, that's a much better strategy than just taking that whole blanket statement, okay, I'm going to buy term and invest the rest. Educate yourself, try to understand how much you need even before you go to an insurance agent. If you're knowledgeable enough, you can drive that conversation. Knowledge is important, and whether you work with a financial coach or you go and learn it on your own, either way, have some knowledge before you go and meet with an agent. And then if someone is just saying to you just buy term, you might want to run. Now, that said, I have a video here that talks about how much insurance you need, and in the video I also said if all you can afford is term, you definitely want to get term. But you want to think about holistically what kind of insurance you need and how much you need. I'm gonna do a quick recap on what you want to do in your 30s, right? So you want to start thinking about long term what your picture is going to look like, even if you don't call it retirement. You want to create a budget just to make sure that you know how your money is coming in and going out. You want to pay off your debt or work on a plan to pay off your debt. You also want to make sure that you're contributing to your 401k plan, even if it's a minimum that your company is going to match. Start investing and get insurance protection. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope it will start getting your brain thinking about what you need to be planning for your future. Please share with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel and please comment below. Let me know how this video was helpful to you. And if it was not, also let me know so that I can know what I need to change.